Always jump the gun. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, wherever you are. Welcome to episode 28 of the Groovy podcast. We are podcasting live from GreatConf EU in Copenhagen. I'm Ken Cousin. This is
Baruch Sadogurski from Copenhagen.
You said your last name.
Yeah,
it's
that's
about
a special
time.
occasion. We
Thank
have
goodness.
the fathers of Groovy with us here.
Would you like to go on and introduce them?
Yeah. Jochen Theodorou.
It's Jochen.
I'm not Russian, you know.
I tried to make it Russian.
It's Jochen. Jochen Theodorou.
Theodorou?
Right? Jochen Theodorou.
It's Romanian. Theodorou.
Try Greek.
Greek?
Yes, Theodorou.
Theodorou. Greek. Okay, and those are easy. Those are French guys.
We have Cédric Champeau, of course, who... No, I'm not going to say anything. And we have, of course, the head of the Groovy project. We have Guillaume Laforge. As I like to say, it's a lowercase f. It's not Geordie. Laforge. So we thought we would do a live podcast. We don't really have anything planned. So let me just ask you, are you enjoying your conference? You having a good time?
Yes, we do. Sure, yes.
Okay.
The weather is great. The talks are great.
I know.
Beer is great.
Oh, yeah, you see the
Perhaps you can
Grail's beer here. We have a Gradle beer.
And the bitter
bitter
beer.
one with the
Bitter Gradle beer. And I think we should all congratulate Guillaume on his new job.
Thank you.
Public today, so we can talk about it.
Yeah.
So would you like to say?
Yeah, I'm joining Google as a developer advocate for the Google Cloud Platform team.
Which is all part of the overall plan to get Google to support Groovy, right?
Everywhere.
Ultimately,
Exactly.
yes. After it acquires Java from Oracle when it wins a lawsuit.
For 9 billion.
That's right.
Well, the first name of the company actually that's
Google,
for a Groovy project.
Guillaume,
And it's a Groovy project altogether.
That's it.
Now, I know, Jochen, today you had a talk that was on the new joint compiler, right?
Yes, which is very in the infant stages.
Okay. Of course, what we just came out of was another episode of the Groovy Puzzlers, which was simply evil, I think.
This is what we do. This is what we do.
If the solution to a
And
puzzle...
Ken was looking at Cédric and myself for, hey, what's the answer each time?
And I have to say that Ken didn't.
Well,
Yeah.
I had those guys right there. I wasn't...
He was afraid of saying something stupid.
Yeah,
I
I the
did.
T-shirt as well.
But actually, that was Cédric's fault because he was telling me, no, we shouldn't vote. So I didn't dare raising my hand. That's why.
I actually got one or two right, but I got some awful ones.
The first ones were much eeasier.
Yeah,
and then the mountain, blah, blah, blah.
The string mountain.
Were a bit tougher.
I
would have made some mistakes myself. And Cédric got some more than me. And Jochen was too far away, so I don't know what
No, Jochen knows everything.
Well, Jochen's a
was
human
banned.
compiler, right?
Yeah, no, he's like cheating by himself. When I said no cheating, it means Jochen cannot vote.
I still had one wrong because I forgot an implementation we changed, and I remembered the older version and not the newer version, and that's why I had it wrong.
Now
Yes, as I was telling Baruch earlier, that we should perhaps introduce an Easter egg with an exception bytecode generated, so that we can't really find in the bytecode somehow, which would be a puzzler exception.
Groovy puzzler exception.
Which is triggered just on very special occasions that only us can know.
Oh, that will be
That
epic.
would be really epic.
I will
think so.
appreciate that a lot.
That would be
So both our listeners have something to look forward to.
Yeah.
One of them then Woods.
Actually, somebody came up to me at the conference today and said, "Oh, I like that you do the Groovy podcast."
That's the other guy.
And he said, I even like it when you make jokes about how few listeners there are. And I said, what jokes?
It's Dan and you. What jokes are you talking about?
But that was very nice. But you're working on the grammar, right, as well, or the Antler grammar for...
I think the guys working on the grammar these days.
Who are the guys?
So Danielson and I'm sorry, I won't get the
We're all
name
bad
right.
with names.
But he was also there last year at GreatConf, and that's when we started. He told me, hey, I've got some past Antler 4 experience, and I would be interested in contributing, and that's how we started working on that. And then Daniel joined him quite recently, a few months ago, like 6 months
Awesome.
ago.
And how much do they have? Can they commit in terms of time and effort? And
well, they do it in the free time, so it's not moving that fast. But I have the feeling it's moving forward. It looks good to me.
Great news, actually.
Yeah. And I don't contribute code there because if they have questions about what should be the behavior, and then I answer them.
And we do some code reviews and this kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Awesome.
So I'm the defining instance for them a bit.
Here, this is how you became a manager. Look at you.
Well, I'd actually it's a mentor.
It's a manager. That's a fancy word. And those guys are ninjas or something. And Ken, let me flatter you on the fantastic keynote you did today. That was great. So for those of you who didn't know, we had a great keynote today provided by Ken about the place of Groovy in the universe when we learned
everywhere, ubiquitous.
Yes,
and beyond.
and beyond, the universe and beyond. And we learned where Groovy stands and some interesting techniques how to convince people to start writing Groovy, except of hitting them with a stick, which what I usually do.
You shouldn't use a stick. You should use a sword.
No, but then they can't write. It's kind of hard to write code without hands.
You should have told me that before.
There have been some exceptionally good presentations, I thought.
The Spock one?
Yeah, the Spock one. I had to look it up because his name is he Polish? Is that what it is? Yeah,
that's Polish.
And it was a talk on what was it called? It was on Spock.
Crannies of Spock or something like that.
Yeah, something like that. It sounds like a puzzler stock. By the name.
No, not a puzzler stock, but actually, it's really experience learned. I would say the hard way. It was really like this guy went into from hoops to solve problems. So it was really concrete feedback on, not theoretical. Okay, there's this feature, this feature, this feature. No, it was really, but what if you have an optional? How is it going to behave? What if etc. And very nicely done.
So we spoke generally. I think we experienced some period of stagnation when Peter got busy on his new job, of course, and no one actually contributed. But I saw a couple of pull requests.
Yeah, here's the same. It's Marcin Z or Z, I suppose you would all say, AJACZKOWSKI. So I would guess something like
Marcin is good.
Zajakowski, something like that. But it's Marcin, and it was called Interesting Nooks and Crannies of Spock You May Have Never Seen Before. I've been using Spock for years now, doing presentations on it. Out of the 50 minutes of the talk, probably 35 of them were things I'd never done. It was really valuable, very impressive there. Also, I don't know how many of you went. I went to the Jeb talk, Scraping with Jeb, done by Sergio Del Amo, the same guy who does the Groovy Calamari.
Yeah,
and that was a wonderful job. I mean, I've seen Jeb before, but he applied it to screen scraping in a way that was very elegant with the page model and creating a little bot and everything to do the work. It was very impressive. And of course, we had the discussion about the future of Groovy, right?
Before that, I would like to thank Sergio for Groovy Calamari because that's one of our main sources for news for the podcast, right? So he's doing a great job.
And the conversation about the future of Groovy had, let's see, you and Jochen were there, and Cédric, and then
Cédric.
Also Jen Strader, and then there was one other.
Andres.
Andres Salmire, right, was there as well.
We didn't remember him.
El Groovissimo.
Groovissimo, yes, of course.
Andres went to another presentation. El Groovissimo.
Right. I also, by the way, I went to the Grails talk too about the I don't remember what they called it, but it was just about answering questions, about Grails, etc. And of course, Graham Roche was there. Graham, of course, was in the Groovy talk as well, asking questions.
Yeah.
Which I think the rest was like, oh, this ought to be good. Yeah. But
so what was the outcome of your discussion about the future of Groovy? Are we all doomed?
A bright future.
Okay.
Come on, be positive.
I'm always positive. I'm just asking.
But
the questions.
Gradle is doomed.
Gradle.
Gradle is doomed.
No way.
They
If
made a huge mistake.
if they continue with Kotlin, there's no way. Cédric.
Well, we will miss Cédric. That I can say
Yeah,
for sure.
I had to throw him.
What was it again?
over
What was the name? Yeah.
It is true to say that the whole issue with Gradle and Kotlin has come up every now and again during the conference. What, hourly, maybe? I mean,
For you, maybe. For me, it's every minute.
every minute. Right?
You came here in the brace mode,
So
like brace for impact mode.
But when I submitted my talks, there wasn't Kotlin.
No.
So this is why they got accepted. This
Yes.
is what it is.
But there were no firm conclusions or anything. It's just that
Yeah, no.
and actually, one of the things I was trying to emphasize is that it's a gamble on Gradleware's part too. It's not.
Gradle.
Gradle Inc.
I keep wanting to call them Gradleware. Yeah, sorry, but Gradle.
Where
Inc.
is Gradle? No.
Yeah, I mean it's not a clear-cut victory for them either. The only people it's a clear-cut win for, of course, are JetBrains.
Yes.
Yeah.
You know, and existing Kotlin developers, I suppose. But Gradle's taking a real gamble by doing this because they're adopting a language that is arguably in its infancy. I mean, it's very
That nobody
young.
uses.
Maybe it's a toddler stage.
Well,
yeah, right. Without a huge mind share.
They developed it for 6 years.
Yeah.
And
Really?
and yes,
I did not know that.
6 years. And I would say that comparing to other projects in 1.0, Kotlin's 1.0 is a very solid 1.0.
Yeah.
Remember,
Let
we
me be
had-
the devil's advocate. for a
No,
minute.
that's right.
You could have told me that before I gave my keynote. You know.
I didn't know that you are going to mention that.
If you go to the Slack channel that they have, there are 2,800 people. I think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which
No,
is
there is
more
a
than
lot
in
of
Grails.
There is no question that the language is very promising, just because of the fact it came now and gathered all the good things from all from Groovy, from Scala, from Java, from all the existing languages, right? They were watched, they see what works, they see what didn't work, and then just bring it together in one language. It's absolutely, it looks fantastic. It's very promising, and it has a fun as a keynote, as a keyword.
One of the things
The language is fun as a keyword. I have to be good. It's fun.
But one of the things I got out of the Groovy conversation is that apparently Groovy will eventually support the Java 8 new syntax with the lambdas and the method references. There's a question as to what the semantics will mean exactly, but that's true now. I mean, there are some things that are a little bit different in Groovy than they are in Java, even with the same syntax. But still, it's nice to know that the old cliche that we could take a Java program and rename it .groovy and have it compile will eventually be true again.
So I think we discussed it once Java 8 was released. It was like 2 years ago, and then
Java 1, I think. Yeah.
And then you explained to me that the real problem is, okay, we can support this syntax, but how it should behave. Should it behave like Lambda, or should it behave like Clojure?
But we're not really decided exactly
And it's
yet.
still there, right?
Still,
you still don't
yeah,
make
yeah,
this
no,
decision.
no, yeah, we still have to discuss.
At least for method references, I think we can do the Java 8 semantics.
Yeah, that's simple. The instance references should behave like instance
You
references.
still have the problem that we have method references with the end,
Right.
and they have method references,
And are they the same?
No.
Oh.
That's the problem.
So the simple part is not simple, and all the rest is even more complicated.
Well, we use a .ampersand. For
Yes.
method
No, so
references.
the question is, if you do the column, how it should behave.
Exactly, and right now we have the .ampersand. But
You have to, if you make features like that, where you have two that are very near together in semantics, you have to explain how one maps to the other, whichever is the more general one.
Yeah.
So, and then people can understand it, and they see maybe.
And how did you solve it in the past? When Java caught up with Groovy and provided some feature which already exists in Groovy, but behave a little bit differently, what path did you take? Did you just mapped the Java syntax to a Groovy behavior, or you changed the Groovy behavior to be the Java behavior?
I don't think.
Did it happen in the
I
past?
don't think, because it was like, like Java 5, we added annotations.
Yeah.
We didn't have
But we didn't have
annotations,
that in Groovy
but I
before.
don't think
Well,
that's,
But one thing would be,
case.
for example, non-final values in our anonymous classes, I mean. So we support that, Java not. Well, now it's effective. If it's effectively
It's effective final, yeah.
which I found out is an area of interpretation what effectively final is. But
Really?
yeah, I fall in the trap with that recently program, and I thought, well, it should be final, but the compiler said nope. So
the only thing I can think of is when you added generics to Groovy, which they compile, but they're not enforced unless you use an
well, no, but
type check
that's
AST
simple,
transform.
right? That's okay.
I wouldn't even say not
In
enforced.
one sentence,
I would
simple
say-
and generics.
I-
You dare
No,
create
but I
a
mean,
sentence simple and generic.
yeah, but I mean the principle that they are more of a documentation that the
Yeah.
compile
Yeah.
time. That's understandable.
Which is
Yeah, you can
why the
argue.
compiler basically ignored them. That's-
The good old
That's
days,
good enough.
yeah.
So they're useful when you're integrating with Java,
Yes.
and if you throw an type check AST transform on it. But other than that,
Yes. You can see it still in the puzzlers, for example, where you have a map with a string key and you put a G string in and it's still a G string key
Yeah.
and not a string key.
Now, okay, so map keys are fun by their own.
Yes.
well, and one of the lessons seems to be you never ever put a Groovy string as the key in a map, right?
Yeah.
I mean, so nothing good comes of
I
that.
think we have like 4 puzzlers only on this. Only on this.
Part of the Spock talk was
Each and every
discussing how
episode
the new optional type in Java 8, which is never supposed to be null, how do you mock that? And you can't mock an optional because the class is final.
Final.
I mean, in addition to all of its other issues, it's also final, and it just makes you long for Groovy's safe navigation operator instead of all that mess with the optional.
Optional is weird. Optional is weird.
Because it's not Scala's optional. It's something different.
Yeah.
I also went to the talk where Cédric gave about the new model inside of Gradle, right? Do you want to say anything about that?
Well, actually, there were 2 talks. The first was in the morning about the new Java software model specifically.
Mm-hmm.
And that's something that we're developing intensively, but it's still incubating. And the second talk was more about advanced dependency management and how you can do more or less what you can do in the Android plugin with the variants, build types, flavors, etc., and how Gradle will allow you to develop your own custom and participate in the.
That's one of the main features of Gradle 3, right? This is what you work for.
So actually, that's an interesting point. So it's not going to be officially part of Gradle Trio. So the scope of Gradle Trio changed.
Mhm.
So now it's more about having.
We have a scoop here. This is great. Yeah, go ahead.
Having a daemon on by default is super important.
Is it enough for like a major version turning the daemon on?
It is definitely enough because it is the best performance improvement that you can have with Gradle. And a lot of people actually ignore that.
They don't have the daemon turned on?
Yeah.
Okay.
So
We're taking a
Guilty.
selfie here.
We're doing a selfie in the
Hello,
middle of the
hello,
podcast. Yeah, all right.
Ken is here.
Yeah, okay.
All right. Okay. Sorry for that. Was important.
yeah, so,
You know,
so,
people
so
are
it's
watching.
that. So
That
it's
was
the
important.
it's the performance aspects. Of course, the Kotlin support.
That's
guys.
the 3.0. That's the big deal
Yeah.
because performance is not enough for a major version. It's an implementation
No,
detail.
Kotlin support is 3.0.1.
Beta
Beta, yes.
Yeah.
broken.
Probably.
So we're gonna have to see how that plays out. I mean, that's
Yeah.
that's interesting news. Then, what makes it 3.0? You know?
Yeah. So no, I was
It's the new
I'm
model.
the impression that the new model is
It's
3.0.
really a big deal
Yeah.
to have the daemon by default because
I think in
It
the
is
new
huge in terms
model
of
and the
performance.
daemon.
Oh no doubt about that. The question is, 3. It means basically, maybe less
Yeah.
backwards compatibility
Right, breaking
and
changes,
new features,
Right.
and just
basically
turning
we
the
will
daemon
remove
on.
all the deprecated methods.
Oh.
from one.
Yeah,
So I imagine there'll be discussions and announcements at the Gradle Summit in a couple of weeks
yeah, sure.
on that. Yeah.
Yeah,
And you will be the Groovy ambassador there because we cannot trust Cédric anymore.
I trust Cédric.
Actually, you saw the puzzlers, Groovy sucks. So let's go.
So I think that's the time to commit to Kotlin puzzles.
Yeah.
What do you say about that?
Scotland puzzle.
What's the last one?
Were there any other talks that you find interesting or striking that you attended today, or did we kind of cover?
What about tomorrow?
Yeah, there was one very interesting talk I attended, which was about joint compilation in Groovy, you know.
Ah,
Yeah.
And you
I've heard
actually
good
attended it
things.
on stage.
Yes.
With a mirror.
Actually presented.
I have heard good things about that. Yeah, that's right.
So what about joint compilation?
The biggest problem with joint compilation as we have it now is that all those nice transforms like the toString and equals and hash code and immutable and whatever you want there, most of them don't work if you do joint compilation, not properly, you know. And so the short story is I want to make a new joint compiler, which
Like
solves that problem.
Rewrite.
Yeah, well, it's
A different
you know,
It's not a rewrite. It's
rewrite.
really a different approach.
Yeah.
the architecture
Without
is different.
tabs.
Is that the same time would be repairing the jigsaw issue that's coming up with Java 9?
Unrelated.
That's unrelated,
It's
but I mean, it's the
unrelated.
same opportunity or the same time frame, maybe.
Yeah, but I'm going to start fixing the jigsaw issues when the jigsaw guys actually decided how the final API will be.
Fair
I
enough.
think
Yeah.
I think it's
Right.
Java 9 is feature free like last week.
Really?
It
Really
was already
Yeah.
feature freeze.
Yeah.
One time, why
10
not?
years ago.
Yeah, I think last week they had the new build. which
Feature
is
freeze doesn't mean that the implementation is stable.
stable, and that's what we.
Not necessarily. It's only
The
that they
scope.
won't add new
The
features.
scope is
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
Okay, that makes sense. Anything you're particularly looking forward to tomorrow, or is it too early to talk about tomorrow talks here? I have a list if it's of any help.
Yeah, I haven't looked at the plan.
Well,
Yo, did you
the
have
one
any
that
talk
was,
set of the panel?
but the one that people brought up, of
so I had
course.
my talk, but that was a bit of the history and the new.
Right, you had the open source Groovy.
Yeah,
yes.
with the little tidbits
one-
from 2.4 to
That one
5.
based on my Twitch keynote, huh?
Yeah, as well in terms of history. So it's a bit of a mix. The history.
He's a
Really?
developer
the-
advocate now. This is what
Yeah,
he
yeah,
does.
yeah.
I know
Stealing-
I
stealing
copied his
content.
talks too, so
Yeah.
no problem.
So yeah, all the little new features in 2.4x something and 2.5.
Well, one of the things that came up on the Grails panel discussion was the discussion that Graham is giving his talk tomorrow on the GORM features, or the
RX
GORM
GORM,
inside
yes.
and out. And that whole idea, I'd never heard of RX GORM until yesterday, apparently.
Yeah.
So reactive GORM, that ought to be interesting.
Yeah, I want to attend that one. That's true.
Are you giving any more talks?
No.
None.
I do.
What are you doing
It's the
tomorrow?
deep dive into the Groovy compiler.
Ah, well, hey.
Here you
how
go.
timely, yes.
Right. That's
It's
tomorrow. I
not just
thought
a
it's today.
transpiler to Kotlin, is it? I just wanted to make sure.
Well, I changed the scope, so I have to update my slides tonight.
Right.
Yeah, so it goes like this. Groovy compiler sucks. Kotlin compiler is cool. Let's talk about that.
But it's very slow.
It is slow and it's big.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
And
the
fat.
Kotlin compiler
Fat
is
and
really, it is really slow.
Well,
I
isn't
mean,
that interesting?
if you want to compile, say, just a script that says hello world,
Hello
it
world.
takes 1 second to compile.
Really?
So
Okay. Are you giving any more talks tomorrow, or are you all set?
No, I'll be flying tomorrow morning.
Oh, that's
So
right.
I'll miss
Yeah.
the second.
No strike, I heard. Good news.
No,
no,
seems to
the
be-
good
yeah,
news
yeah,
is
yeah.
that the strike
That's very good
was,
Good ones
how do
cancelled.
you say,
Cancelled.
cancelled?
Yeah, yeah.
We're kind of skipping over the so-called University Day, the first day when they did their tutorials. I went to the RESTful Grails talk, which was interesting, or not talk, I mean, it was a workshop. And I also saw Ryan Vanderwerf do his
Lego.
Lego Mindstorms.
That's an epic one.
right, and he's talking about Alexa tomorrow.
That's tomorrow. Yeah,
It should
yeah,
be
yeah.
interesting.
He does like very fun stuff
Yeah,
for
hacky
hardware.
stuff,
Yeah,
stuff,
yeah,
fun
yeah.
stuff.
And with Alexa, it's actually interesting because I wanted to steal some of his ideas to do integration of Alexa with Beamframe, maybe to do some kind of stuff there. But it is very simple model on how Alexa works.
Okay.
It just goes to a server, and from there you can tell that what
You
to
know,
do.
if we could tell Alexa release Groovy 2.7 and so on, and it does,
Well, that
without
should
our
actually
help,
work.
that would be very helpful.
Once we have the process with hands-off,
And
which you cannot do because of
the
Apache,
votes and so
not
on.
because of technology, then it could actually
Well,
work. But
The
Stage
individual
release.
steps can be done automatically.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
But we have to automate each step.
Yeah, so the problem is not in automating each step or all the steps, it's just you have procedures to follow.
Yes.
And we spoke about nasty ways to. No, we cannot. Let's record it.
It's recorded.
No, we will do it by the book.
Signing.
Yeah, we will do it.
I'm sure there's some Rat Pack stuff tomorrow. I see at least one Rat Pack talk, but I didn't notice any Rat Pack talks today, or did I just happen to miss them?
Well, most of the Rat Pack guys are in the US, so Great Conf US is more heavily Rat Pack oriented.
But there's Danny.
Now we have Danny as a representative from the gang.
Yeah. And there's a comment about using Groovy. There's a talk tomorrow about using Groovy with Jenkins, and you pointed out to me that's an area that is attracting new Groovy developers to the field. Was it the pipeline plugin that supports the Groovy DSL?
It's all Groovy too. So it's all Jenkins too. So Jenkins 2 is about DSL. And that's interesting how we got back to the days of cruise control. Remember cruise control? You remember?
Oh, yeah, we used
that
on the Groovy project.
People hated cruise control because you had to write all the build in code, right? And then we went to all the UI with the drop downs and the checkboxes and the radio buttons. And now we are coming back
for flexibility.
The difference is that we started with XML and cruise control, and now we're back to Groovy, right? So Jenkins 2 is about writing the build with all the plugins, with everything in an awesome Groovy DSL, which is extendable. And I'm going like nuts here because we have our own Artifactory DSL for the Artifactory plugin, which a little bit like the custom DSLs that you can add to a Gradle build, right? So you can declare your own extension object, and then suddenly in your Jenkins build you can have your own part of DSL that does what you want. So we have like Artifactory server, register, and then deployable info and this stuff. They do something fun there.
They can't be having more fun than we are. I'm sorry, there's just no way. So,
do you have some joke to tell us?
We should match the noise.
Well, the only one the one that seemed to go over well. Now, of course, most of my jokes are not original. I pick them up on Twitter. You know, I reuse them like everybody else. But the one that went over well this morning was the one about a million monkeys on a million typewriters would eventually type a Java program, and the rest of them will be Perl programs. Yes. Right. So that went over well. Are there any other things you could think of? I mean, any other comments or things you're looking forward to? Having a good time? Whatever.
The nice weather.
Yeah, the weather has been remarkably nice. Yes.
You actually have the best time if you contribute to Groovy.
Here you go.
In fact, you raised an objection to one of the puzzlers because there did not exist a test case to demonstrate it, right? So yeah, even contributing tests, contributing documentation, contributing anything is always welcome in the community.
I know what they're doing. They're playing the captain game, which is a drinking game.
But regardless, there's no way they're having more fun than we
are.
So we'll say that we had a good time, nice discussion. This could go on indefinitely, but we'll draw to a point there. Thank you very much. Hopefully we'll all get to see each other again.
Thank you for hosting.
Soon, at some point. Thank you. And when you relocate to Mountain View.
I will in Paris.
And when you meet Larry and Sergey and manage to convince them to purchase Java and Groovy from Oracle.
Who cares about Java?
Well, if they're going to buy Java, then they'll have to support Groovy, right?
No, but if they're going to buy Groovy, Java can stay at Oracle. I don't care.
Nothing good can come of Java staying at Oracle.
Nothing.
So,
Here, that's Larry.
Yeah, probably Larry calling right away.
It's recorded.
So thank you, those of you who are listening to this. If any, hopefully the sound came across okay. And we will see you next time.
Bye-bye.
So bye-bye.